Hello, good evening. You're watching us live from the Gambia Radio and Television Services, and this is the news coming to you straight from Banjul, also coming up. His Excellency President Adama Barrow signs the condolence book of late Queen Elizabeth II at the British High Commission's office in Fajara. The Attorney General and Minister of Justice presents before deputies the 1986 Constitution on International Labour Organization for amendment and consideration. Plus, the Task Force on Disaster Response discusses resettlement scheme with victims of the recent floods in Banjul whose homes were completely destroyed. And in sports, Premier League postpones Chelsea versus Liverpool and the clash between Manchester United and Leeds due to police shortage. And away from home, thousands of people pay their respects to Britain's longest-serving monarch as the coffin of Queen Elizabeth II arrives in St. Giles Cathedral in Scotland. And Ukraine accuses Russian military of attacking civilian infrastructure in response to a rapid weekend offensive by Ukrainian troops. Well, these are many of the stories coming ahead in the next 35 minutes. I am Fatu Janimba, and many thanks for joining us. Well, it's great to have you with us, and we begin this bulletin with the executive, where the President, His Excellency Adama Barrow, have signed the condolence book of late Queen Elizabeth II at the British High Commission's office. The President was received upon arrival by the British High Commissioner to the Gambia, His Excellency David Belgrove, and staff of the British High Commission. Aminata Isanyang tells us more.
And the world mourns the demise of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II. His Excellency President Adama Barrow visited the British High Commission to sign the condolence book, a pen to deliver tributes to UK's longest reigning monarch. President Barrow recalled his interaction with the Queen and extended his condolences to the monarch, who died on Thursday, September 8, 2022.
We had the news. It was really very shocking, because I can remember very well when I attended the Commonwealth Head of State meeting in 2018. I sat next to the Queen, and she has been there also for 70 years. So I think it's a shock to the entire world, especially the British people. That's why I said I have to come and sympathize with the ambassador on behalf of my family and the entire country. But I think it's a big loss to the entire world. As I was even discussing with the ambassador, I said, like 70 years, such things haven't happened in Britain. I think it's a big shock to everybody. But we still pray for her. May her soul rest in peace.
As her successor, King Charles, assumes the reign of the British Kingdom, President Barrow hopes the already existing bond between the Gambia and UK will remain strong.
We will continue to improve on the relationship. And I can remember also, he also came here to visit the Gambia. We have already built that relationship between our two of us. And he is very experienced, about 73 years. So I think he is well ready for the position.
The British High Commissioner David Belgrove expressed appreciation for the President's visit.
Very grateful that His Excellency the President came today. It is a big shock to us all, and I think this is a symbol of the close ties between our nation, the fact that we're standing here today. But we're moving now into a new era. As you mentioned earlier, we have a new king, and it's a new time for the Commonwealth, and for us to renew those ties and those shared values that we have within the Commonwealth, values of democracy and freedom and human rights.
The ties between both countries are expected to continue to thrive in this new era, with UK expanding its development cooperation with the Gambia, which rejoined the Commonwealth under His Excellency President Adama Barrow. Aminata Isanyang, GRTS.
And to some legislative matters now, where lawmakers have resumed sittings, marking the beginning of the third ordinary session in the 2022 legislative year. And as we hear in this report by Janke Toure, the lawmakers have considered and ratified the instrument for the amendment of the 1986 Constitution on International Labour Organization.
An important document on workers' welfare arrives before parliamentarians marks the launch of the 6th legislature in the third ordinary session of the National Assembly's 2022 legislative year. The Attorney General and Justice Minister Dauda Ejalo presented the document before members of the Assembly to consider and ratify the instrument, amending the Constitution of the 1986 International Labour Organization.
The main objective of the proposed amendment is to make membership of the governing body of the ILO to be more representative by providing a means of appointment that considers various geographic, economic, and social interests of its constituent groups.
The International Labour Organization is devoted to promoting social justice and internationally recognized human labor rights, pursuing a founding mission that projects labor peace as an essential pathway to prosperity. In 1986, the International Labour Conference adopted an instrument of amendment proposing changes that affect 11 of the 40 articles within the Constitution of the International Labour Organization. Here, Minister Jallo outlines its impact if ratified.
With these amendments, the number of members of the governing body under the Constitution will increase to 112, and the manner of their allocation will also be affected. Of these, 56 seats are allocated to the government representatives, 28 each will be allocated to employers and workers' representatives. There would no longer be seats guaranteed for member states of chief industrials importance.
The important session witnessed a debate on the labour document, with some legislators describing it as an important instrument that needs to be adopted in conformity with the laws of the land that accord room for more representation.
The amendment, it does give room. It does even remove that there be no more an industrial, chief industrialist who to decide on behalf of member states.
If we are committed to our membership, we have to ratify the instrument.
The 1986 amendment, according to officials, addresses three main areas: the composition and governance of the governing body of the office, the procedure for appointment of the Director General, alongside rules governing how the Constitution may be amended. In the ensuing debate, some members of the Parliament asked for more clarification on the document, whilst others wanted to know about projected gains to uplift worker welfare and progresses made. After taking key notes from their concerns, Minister Jaro responded to questions, including clarifications on the existing Labour Act.
In our engagements with international bodies, the National Assembly will have an oversight to observe what we are doing, whether we are doing it rightly. So you are not necessarily going to legislate this instrument because it is not a domestic legislation. It is part of an international treaty for which the executive has participated. And we participate also in some of these complex negotiations as a bloc, as Africa bloc, or sometimes we participate as a sub-regional bloc. So we bargain. However, this particular legislation or piece of treaty we are looking at was, we have to say this, was negotiated and accepted by the First Republic, 1986. I think you have seen the date. So those of you who are asking whether you were consulted or not, whether appropriate consultation have taken place during that time, none of us can tell at this stage here. But it was the government of the First Republic in 1986 that participated on behalf of the Gambia in the negotiations of these amendments, and then they append Gambia's signature to these amendments. The delay why it took 36 years for Gambia to ratify, I don't know.
The Assembly subsequently considered and ratified the instrument for the amendment of the Constitution of the International Labour Organization 1986, while sittings were rescheduled to continue on Thursday. Janket Toure, GRTS News.
And now, the Task Force on Disaster Response under the Office of the Vice President has held meetings with the disaster victims from Banjul who were relocated to the Friendship Hotel in Bakau. The meeting centered on a resettlement scheme of $10,000 for each of the 11 households residing in the hotel, which came personally from President Adama Barrow. Now, this comes after their homes in Banjul were destroyed by the heavy downpour. Ibrahim Cham was at the meeting, and he now filed in this report.
Households were relocated from St. Augustine's High School for a temporary resettlement at the Friendship Hotel in Bakau, since their homes in Banjul were severely damaged by torrential floods that left their houses inhabitable. The Disaster Response Task Force under the Vice President's office came to convey a goodwill gesture from His Excellency President Adama Barrow, who donated $10,000 to each displaced family. The flood victims expressed deep appreciation for the gesture, saying the funds will help them secure a new place to rent as they move to pick up their lives again. The Women, Gender and Children's Minister said that the elderly will be taken care of to allay existing challenges hampering their welfare.
Among them is an old man, Mr. Esa Adakwa, commonly known as Esa Fishpie, who has lived in Banjul for a very long time. I think he has been in the Gambia for over 30 years. And at the moment, he has nowhere to stay. We are told that where he used to stay, he couldn't pay rent, and the house is completely damaged, and so are all of his clothes and things that belong to him. So as a result, we are now arranging under my ministry to take him to the shelter for the elderly and children, where he'll be accommodated, and we'll take care of him, provide him with everything that he needs.
According to the Environment Minister, government is working on a long-term strategy to end the flood crisis so that inhabitants of flood-prone areas can live in a conducive setting free of disaster.
Because we received their pledge that they want to move to their new homes, either where they were renting or to look for a new place, but they are constrained with finance. But we want to engage them to inform them that it is not right for government to go to that far, because we also have to use the law within our limits. We have to support to make sure that we help them settle. But out of the goodwill of His Excellency, the President of the Republic of the Gambia, when he was informed about these situations, he volunteered from his own pocket to give each of these families $10,000.
The flood victims took turns to thank the President for the massive support package.
I will go. Hence, he is the one who brought me here. Wherever he's taking me, it's all right. Thank the Almighty Allah. Hence, he's going to give me a place to stay, sit down, sleep. You know, shelter is one of the most important on earth.
The National Disaster Management Agency is leading a major effort to boost community resilience and support internally displaced families. NDMA Executive Director Sana Dahaba reassured the public on mitigation strategies being put in place by the government to curb the level of disasters in flood-prone areas.
As a government, you can see when the flooding happened, the Vice President went around to look at the affected areas, and the President also followed the following day. And he came up with a policy pronouncement that the government of the Gambia will provide support to go to stream at a tune of $46 million. In addition to that, the government is requesting funding from $70 million from Indian government to improve the drainage system across the greater Banjul area.
As flood victims look forward to starting a new life, landlords are urged to be supportive and considerate as they search for new homes for their families. Reporting for GRTS News, I'm Ibrahim Cham.
And from that report by Ibrahim Cham, we shift attention to a press release from the Gambia Armed Forces, and it reads: The Gambia Armed Forces is pleased to inform the public that the Gambia Police Force will conduct a live firing exercise at the Gav's Tintimba shooting range in Foni on Wednesday, 14th September 2022. A media release from the Gambia Armed Forces urged the public, especially residents of Tintimba, Burok, Kamfenda, Kanilai, Sangajor and Buyam, not to panic, but caution to avoid the designated training areas on the above mentioned date. It ends. And now we shift attention and take a look at efforts to restore the degraded forest cover as Green Up Tujereng movement in partnership with Mbolo Association, together with Africa Gambia organization on Sunday, planted close to 2,000 trees at the Tujereng Morikunda Community Forest. The aim is to mitigate the effects of climate change. Majan Barrow tells us more.
Morikunda Community Forest was acquired through a land reservation process by Forestry Department for a community forest in the area in 2001 with a size of 36 hectares. Omar Bitte is the chairman of the forest.
This part of the forest was once ventured by Morikunda, and then they were given this land for others for agriculture. Then later, when we want to declare it, we had to send one man to those people, tell them that the land reserved for the community forest is not, we want to expand it to the area which we are giving to you as for this upland rights.
The chairman of Green Up Tujereng movement described the exercise as a collective responsibility to develop and take proper care of the forest to mitigate the effects of climate change.
Mbolo Association, like I said, partners to the VDC of Tujereng and Green Up Tujereng movement is having plans to make sure that the forest is fenced with a semi-permeable membrane that will allow animals to go in and go out. And secondly, we are also looking into having a borehole system in the forest here, because most of the animals that are killed in the drying season. That is when the water dries in the forest and they move around to look for water.
Lamin Jame is the president of Together Africa Gambia organization.
This came to our mind since during Ramadan. We were on discussions with the local authorities as long as West Coast region is concerned, to see how best we can do our quota as long as to bring back our forest. So this is something that we geared towards for the complement of the government today.
Mbolo Association is working with Green Up Tujereng movement to give them guidelines, including funding for proper implementation of their projects, said Malang Sambu, chairman of Mbolo Association.
The Green Up movement was backed by us, and then we started working with them in order to give them guidelines and then support them with the way how to do very good planning and then how to get access to finance in order for their actions to be implemented.
As a forestry officer, Rohi Sise complimented the people of Tujereng for the positive initiative.
We need sustainable measures. When we plant these trees, we need them to be sustainable. The saying goes, no tree, no life. But anyone who comes to this forest park, you know that it's a thick forest. They have never experienced fire.
The people of Tujereng are optimistic that the community forest will emerge as one of the best forests in the Gambia in years to come, and will immensely contribute to the mitigation of the effects of climate change. Majan Barrow for GRTS News.
And elsewhere, the Agribusiness Technical Services Unit under the Department of Agriculture in partnership with the Rice Value Chain Transformation Project recently organized a 3-day capacity building forum for 70 cooperative credit executive members. The participants were drawn from the Regional Rice Value Chain Transformation Project, and the training in Pakalinding in the Lower River region focused mainly on cooperative management. Well, our correspondent in the region, Usman Balde, brings us up to date on that.
It's part of the second phase of the Rice Value Chain Transformative Project aimed at strengthening cooperative societies. This, according to the Social Development Officer of the project, Ibrahim Sise, is in line with project's agro-business marketing and capacity building strategies.
We are working very hard with Maruo farms. We are working very hard with Mira farms. We are working very hard with Salif Mbalo and Children's Group. These are individual Gambian private sector working in the rice sector. And already, the marketing aspect has taken off, because Mira farms in particular bought more than 15 metric tons of paddy rice, whose paddy rice that we have supported the farmers and they produce. So in other words, we gave seeds and fertilizer. The farmers produce the rice, and Mira Farm went around to all these regions, Sierra North, Sierra South, and URA, and purchased this rice. And he has milled this rice ready for float in the Gambian market, which is a very important step in the drive to commercialization.
The Director of Agribusiness Technical Service Unit at the Department of Agriculture, Abbas Sankare, spoke of the inactiveness of cooperatives in the country.
Cooperative in those days were very vibrant, as I say, but towards the tail end of the First Republic and into the Second Republic, to us, cooperatives don't exist anymore. Even at the international level, International Cooperative Alliance deemed that there is no more cooperative movement in the Gambia. So since then, we were trying, though I was not in this unit then, but since at that time, we are trying to see how best we can bring back cooperative into this country. But things do not, work right.
Director Sankare explained that his office is working with relevant stakeholders to improve the current situation of cooperatives across the country.
Cooperative policy for the first time for the Gambia. Cooperative in those days functions based on the Cooperative Societies Act. But now we have a cooperative policy in this country, and we are just coming to start implementing the policy. One of the first action points of the policy, of course, to re-establish the then Department of Cooperative. Because if you don't re-establish the department, the power, to the head, who is normally termed as the registrar of cooperative, will not be there. But if the department is established legally, then it can regulate the function of our primary and secondary cooperatives. So as I am talking to you right now, the new department, the new look has been finalized. We try to improve upon the last cooperative department. We try to improve upon it, and of course to come up with current emerging issues as far as cooperative development is concerned.
The Regional Agriculture Director for Lower River Region, Mamadou Lamin Dabo, advised participants to take the best use of the training and share the knowledge learned. Usman Balle, GRTS News. The forum is...
Well, time now to take our first break. When we return, we'll take a look at some sports news. To stay with us.
Hello and welcome to US Embassy Gambia Today, a podcast brought to you by US Embassy Banjul. This weekly podcast will feature leaders and our partners in the Gambia. Join us every Wednesday as we broadcast these informative episodes from our American Corner studio at Africell in Bundung. We are on Spotify, Google, SoundCloud and Apple Podcast. You can also follow the program on our Facebook and Twitter pages at US Embassy Banjul. US Embassy Gambia Today, bringing the Gambia and the United States closer.
How to buy cash power. Log in with your username and password or fingerprint or facial recognition. On the navigation menu, click on Cash Power. Select the account to debit from. Enter the meter number you wish to top up and phone number or select from a saved beneficiary. The name on the meter is automatically displayed. Enter the amount, narration, and click Make Payment. Click Confirm after previewing the entered details or click Cancel to make changes. Enter your PIN or the OTP that was sent to you via SMS and email and click Confirm. Your cash power purchase is complete and you'll receive the token via SMS instantly. Click Save to Beneficiaries to save the details for future purchases and click Done to generate a receipt with your cash power token.
Back to GRTS News and in sports. The Premier League has announced on Monday that Liverpool's visit to Chelsea and Manchester United's clash with Leeds on Sunday have been postponed due to policing pressures ahead of the funeral of Queen Elizabeth II. Meanwhile, 7 Premier League games will go ahead this weekend, with Brighton's match against Crystal Palace have been previously postponed due to a planned rail strike. Despite the strike being cancelled, the match remains off. Now, Arsenal's trip to Brentford on Sunday has also been moved forward 2 hours to a midday kickoff. While you're still watching us live from the Gambia Radio and Television Services, we'll take a quick break. When we return, we'll take a look at what else is making headline news around the world. To stay with us.
Amazing offer! AfriMoney just got way better. The threshold for cash in and cash out on your AfriMoney has been increased.
Where it used to be 10,000 per transaction, now it has been increased to 30,000. Meaning, your AfriMoney account, you can now withdraw and deposit up to $30,000 at once.
Cashing in and out just got 3 times easier. For more info, call 777.
Where AfriCell goes, nobody dares to follow.
Welcome back, and to the internationals. We head straight to the UK, where late Queen Elizabeth II's coffin was taken along the Royal Mile in the Scottish capital, Edinburgh, on September 12th. In a silent and solemn procession, watched by thousands of people paying their respects to Britain's longest-serving monarch. The oak coffin, draped in the Royal Standard of Scotland and with a wreath of white flowers placed on top, was then carried into St. Giles Cathedral and the crown of Scotland laid on it. Well, details of that in this report by France 24.
Leaving the Royal Mile, heading past the cathedral. It's been a very special day for everyone here. And now, soon, in a few minutes, well, the people of Edinburgh, visitors, Scots, many people here will be allowed to enter St. Giles Cathedral to pay their respects, to see the coffin of their beloved Queen Elizabeth II. They won't be able to take pictures or make videos. That's forbidden. One security official told me that it was either queuing to get a wristband to go in or watching the cortege go by. You had thousands, if not tens of thousands, on the Royal Mile here all afternoon, all day, waiting to see the coffin of Queen Elizabeth, as well, of course, as King Charles III. And at the same time, you have another 1,000 or so people since the early hours of the morning behind the cathedral, queuing patiently, because they need to queue in order to go through a huge tent, get searched, get a wristband, and then go into St. Giles Cathedral to be able to make to pay their respects and say a final farewell. Indeed, Scottish nationalism and such issues are not forgotten, of course, but all of these are on pause for the time being. It really is a national unity, and therefore all these messages from Scotland's First Minister Nicola Sturgeon, speaking of a sad, poignant moment when Queen Elizabeth's coffin left her beloved castle of Balmoral. Here, very much, you don't hear any anti-monarchy slogans, messages. There were a couple of incidents today, but really isolated incidents. I did speak to people who are not particular fans of the monarchy, but who told me, we loved Elizabeth II. We loved Her Majesty, and therefore we wanted to be here, even though these people are not necessarily huge fans of the monarchy as such. Here, a lot of emotional scenes. I saw people in tears here. Just after the cortege went by, I spoke to a lady who was in her 70s who was practically in tears. She looked at me and she said, wasn't it touching? I tried not to cry in honor of Her Majesty. I wanted to try to stay as strong as possible. That's what this lady told me. I met with people who'd arrived here at 6 o'clock in the morning to find a seat, the best possible place to view the cortege just along these barriers. And as you said it, thousands of people packed on these streets of Edinburgh. Take a look. The pavement is not that wide. The streets are rather small. The pavement section is rather small. So you can imagine when you've got thousands of people packed here, it's quite a scene. The Royal Mile I'm on goes right to Holyrood House palace, and here is St Giles Cathedral, of course. Emotional scenes, a historic moment, and all the people who waited hours to be here will never forget this. You can see a lot of people around me leaving the Royal Mile, heading past the cathedral. It's been a very special day for everyone here.
Now, Ukraine has accused the Russian military of attacking civilian infrastructure in response to a rapid weekend offensive by Ukrainian troops that forced Russia to abandon its main bastion in the Kaviki region. No military facilities. The goal is to deprive people of light and heat. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky tweeted, "France 24 has to rest."
Thermal power plant in Kharkiv after Russian strikes in the northeastern city on Sunday. The attacks reportedly left 9 million residents without power and water in northeastern and central Ukraine. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky says Russian forces had only targeted civilian infrastructure.
Нанесений ракетний удар по об'єкту інфраструктури, пошкоджені трансформатори. В приміщенні, в які влучила ракета, було два чергових. Одного ми вже знайшли, який загинув. Зараз ведуться пошуки другого.
Kyiv condemned the attack as a retaliation over Moscow's losses in the east. In a crucial pocket of northeast Ukraine, Russia's front lines collapsed in recent days, losing key northeastern cities to a surprise Ukrainian counter-offensive, including Kupiansk, Balaklia and Izium, a gateway to the Donbass region, making it a key front to the war. Because of their retreat, Russian forces left behind a critical logistics hub in Izium, containing ammunition stockpiles and equipment.
Головна площа Ізюма ще догорає, приміщення місцевої адміністрації, навколо все зруйновано, але нічого, все відновимо, а Ізюм був, є і буде Україна.
As the Ukrainian military claims to have retaken 3,000 square kilometers of land, the Russian Defense Ministry is framing their retreat as part of their strategy meant to reinforce its position in the eastern Donbass region. Meanwhile, on the southern front, Ukraine continues to push against Russian forces near Mykolaiv and Kherson, where the country's military is making modest gains.
And from that, we come to the end of this edition of the news. But before we go, a quick reminder of our top stories once again. President Adama Barrow has signed the condolence book of late Queen Elizabeth II at the British High Commission's office in Fajara. The Attorney General and Minister of Justice are presented before deputies the 1986 Constitution on International Labour Organization for amendment and consideration. Plus, the Task Force on Disaster Response have been discussing resettlement scheme with victims of recent floods in Banjul whose homes were completely destroyed. And in sports, the Premier League have postponed Chelsea versus Liverpool and the clash between Manchester United and Leeds due to police shortage. And away from home, thousands of people have paid their respects to Britain's longest-serving monarch as the coffin of Queen Elizabeth II arrived in St. Giles Cathedral in Scotland. And Ukraine have accused the Russian military of attacking civilian infrastructure in response to a rapid weekend offensive by Ukrainian troops. Well, that's it from me, Fatu Janimba. I'll see you again at 2200 hours for more news. Until then, many thanks for joining us.